Jan Müller is the CEO of the Netherlands Regional Public Broadcasting Organization, and today he is here to talk about cyber security. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this part of the conference is called Tools for Transformation. I would say this is against transformation, what happened to us. So ready for some cybercrime? This felt for us like being in a permanent sauna, actually, when it happened to us. So good morning. Today, I'd like to talk about a story that sounds like a Netflix series, actually. But it happened in a real newsroom, in a very real regional broadcaster organization. So let me start with a few questions first. Who has ever visited the dark web? Oh, look, a few, okay. Who has ever been taken hostage and asked to pay hundreds of thousands of euros to get your freedom back? Okay. Who has ever negotiated about getting your data back? Okay, well, neither had we, actually. But instead of explaining to you why via all these bullet points and slides, I would like to start with a video, actually. And that video is about the story of RTV Noord, one of our regional broadcasters in the Netherlands. It actually takes you from the first moment in which we found out that something might be wrong here, to the moment where we're standing at the police station to file a report. So please have a look at this video.
Ik loop hier naar binnen, iets voor 5 en ik doe de lampen aan, een kopje koffie halen, want het is nog hartstikke vroeg. Ik zet de computer aan en het scherm doet helemaal niks meer. In ieder geval niet wat ik wil.
Intussen tikt de klok door en komt de deadline voor de start van de uitzending steeds dichterbij.
Wat gaan we doen? Kunnen we überhaupt uitzenden? Checken of de microfoons het doen. Die doen het.
De systemen hier die vallen uit. Ja, dat betekent ook dat we geen muziek kunnen laten horen, zoals we normaal gesproken zouden doen, Sergej. Maar ik weet niet of je het gezien hebt.
Ja, we hebben hier nog wel een platenspeler staan en een cd-speler.
In het decor stond een prachtige plaat van Dolly Parton. Een mooie hoes van 9 to 5. En ik denk, dat wordt de eerste plaat.
Hier is Dolly Parton. Met 9 to 5. Goedemorgen.
Tot aan 10 uur zaten we in de studio. En nou, pas nadat ik er buiten liep, toen hoorden wij van... het gaat echt om een hack. We zijn gehackt.
Ik was net de dag daarvoor naar Miami gevlogen. Want ik zou een weekje met mijn man en met mijn 2 dochters vakantie gaan vieren. En mijn hele telefoon was overspoeld met allemaal berichten vanuit Groningen dat we gehackt waren. Nou, toen werd mij wel duidelijk, dit is echt heel erg ernstig. Dus ik moet gewoon weer terug.
RTV Noord besluit externe hulp in te schakelen van een cybersecurity bedrijf.
We hebben natuurlijk een IT-afdeling die ontzettend goed werk doet. Maar als je gehackt wordt, ja, dat is zo bijzonder, dat gebeurt niet zo vaak. En dan heb je ook heel veel juridische ondersteuning nodig. Dus daarvoor moet je dan toch een bureau dat hierin gespecialiseerd is in de armen roepen.
Onderzoek laat zien dat de hackers al langere tijd toegang hadden tot het netwerk, waar ze spionagesoftware installeerden en zich ongehinderd bewogen.
Ze proberen natuurlijk je onder druk te zetten en dan geld te vragen. En ook te dreigen dat ze alles online gaan gooien. Wij zijn natuurlijk een publieke omroep. En een publieke omroep wordt gefinancierd grotendeels vanuit geld vanuit de overheid. Dus je wilt natuurlijk niet als publieke omroep dat geld gaan gebruiken om met criminelen om te gaan en hen te betalen daarvoor. Dus dat hebben we niet overwogen.
Enkele dagen na de ontdekking van de hack doet RTV Noord officieel aangifte.
Die aangifte is nodig voor de politie om in een later stadium eventueel onderzoek te kunnen doen.
Daarnaast hebben we ook de autoriteit persoonsgegevens binnen 72 uur hebben we die op de hoogte gebracht van alles wat er speelde. En die houden we ook constant op de hoogte.
Stap voor stap wordt duidelijk wat de hackers hebben buitgemaakt. Ook persoonsgegevens van medewerkers zijn gestolen, waaronder namen, e-mailadressen en bankrekeningnummers.
Nou, dat is natuurlijk verschrikkelijk op het moment dat je ontdekt dat dat soort dingen gebeuren. Nou, daarna hebben we ook een informatiebijeenkomst in het leven geroepen, ook voor alle collega's en alle medewerkers, zodat ze daar alle vragen ook konden stellen. Die vragen hebben we beantwoord samen ook met het Cybersecurity Bureau.
Goedenavond en welkom bij deze bijzondere Noord Vandaag. Internetcriminelen hebben namelijk vandaag RTV Noord gehackt.
ja, ik ben er gewoon ontzettend trots op dat we geen seconde uit de lucht zijn geweest. Dat is gewoon echt wel een prestatie als je ziet zeg maar, welke systemen we normaal gesproken gebruiken.
En dat betekent ook dat onze functie als calamiteitenzender dus ook geen moment in gevaar is geweest.
Voor buitenstaanders lijkt alles weer normaal, maar schijn bedriegt. Niet alle redactiesystemen zijn terug online. Artikelen publiceren gebeurt nog altijd via een omweg.
Dus ik ben er ook ongelooflijk trots op dat iedereen zo veerkrachtig is en zo met creatieve ideeën er toch in geslaagd is om alles voor elkaar te krijgen. En ja, dat is fantastisch als je ziet hoe zo'n bedrijf gewoon doorgaat en met elkaar de schouders eronder zet.
So as I said, it was like a Netflix script. This was real, very real. And we had to deal with cyber criminals. That was pretty sure and pretty clear from the beginning. And of course, being a public broadcast organization, public means public money. And that was an issue, as you can understand. So from the very first moment, we were dealing with these things. Just to give you a little bit of context, in the Netherlands, we have 13 regional broadcasters. The one, RTV Noord, is in the north of the country, and hopefully next year we will meet you in the south at L1 in Maastricht. But apart from being a network of 13 regional broadcasters, we're also taking care by law of the emergency function that we have. So by law we are an emergency broadcaster, which means that if there's a disaster in the country, they need to find us in order to be told what to do. So let me zoom in now on what actually happened there at RTV Noord. You've seen it in the video, but I'll get a bit more in depth. And actually, most of why I do it is that I believe that this is relevant for every broadcaster here in the room. So, today's session is actually a case study. It's about a ransomware attack on RTV Noord, when the newsroom literally went dark. And I'll walk you through two things. First, how disruption led to resilience, what actually happened and what we learned. And secondly, the broader cybersecurity lessons for regional broadcasters, maybe like yours. Okay, until that morning in November, RTV Noord was, in many ways, like most of us here. Busy with daily news, politics, sports, weather, audience numbers. And of course there was IT and cybersecurity, but mostly in the background. All of that changed in a matter of hours. Why do I think this mattered to you? Well, three things. First of all, regional broadcasters are critical for local democracy and for emergencies in our case. So we are the ones who tell people what to do when there's a flood, fire, an explosion, or even worse. Second, our work has become almost completely digital, and I think this is the essence of everything what's happening here. Being digital makes you more vulnerable. I'll tell you more about it later. So think about IP-based production, remote work, cloud services, external vendors. If these systems fail, your journalism will fail. And third, groups like Warlock, in this case, tell you more about it later, are scanning the internet 24/7. They're not asking, do we like this broadcaster? No, they just simply ask, is this system vulnerable? Can I get in? So for us, as public broadcasters, the question is less if and more when. My goal today is not to turn you into security engineers, by the way. My goal is awareness and very practical lessons you can take home. So back to that day, November 25. Let's go to that morning. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, you saw it in the video. The presenter of the morning show arrives at RTV Noord, finds out that the computers don't work, and when he comes back, he sees that all the screens are frozen. Now, if you work in broadcasting, this is not always a reason to panic. Computers freeze, systems crash, so they call the technicians at home. The guy tries to log in remotely and doesn't work either. They reboot, they try again, time is ticking towards that 6 a.m. start of the show. And they realize we have no newsroom, no system, no music playout, nothing. We're not even sure if we can make it from the studio. So what do? Literally, they go through the building looking for CDs and vinyl, and you saw it already in the video. A special moment. They found one CD from a local singing bus driver. The world famous birdie from Groningen. And they start pulling LPs from the studio set. And at 6 a.m. the microphones work. The presenter goes live on air, you saw that. And Groningen wakes up to the show with Dolly Parton and a lot of improvisation. And then there's a funny fact to tell about it. It was not in the video, but I love that story. We needed more records because you can't play Dolly Parton all day long, of course. Maybe you can, but in this case we decided not to. And the Birdie CD the same, I guess. But the producer jumped in his car, went back home, and being a fanatic collector of LPs, he found these alphabetically ordered cases. So he took the one with the label B on it. So no one noticed, but the whole day was only music with the letter B in it. So the Bee Gees, Bob Marley, Boney M, Bruce Springsteen, and the DJ was working fine. So that was nice. Fortunately, he still had to prep for the radio interviews because he sent the things that he had to use in terms of the interviews back to his home already to practice, and so he had these files that he could use. Okay. For the listeners, more or less it sounded like a normal, maybe even charming morning show. But inside the building, you can imagine it was pure crisis. So between 6 and 7 in the morning, the real picture becomes clear. Multiple internal servers are suddenly encrypted. There are ransom nodes on the systems. It becomes clear this is ransomware. We found a node, literally. Key systems are down, the newsroom system, the audio playout, planning, administration. Most of the editing systems don't work, only a few machines that are offline. The good news, externally hosted systems are mostly unaffected. The bad news, inside the heart of the organization is no longer functioning. That's what happened. And fairly quickly, you see it here in red, a name appears, a group called Warlock. And Warlock is an international ransomware group. And this picture looks even romantic, but it's not at all. It's a commercial service, hacking as a service. They are completely financially motivated. They run ransomware as a service, literally. They offer encryption tools, payment infrastructure, a platform for communication, and for publishing stolen data. So imagine you're a hacker, you know your way around, you know how these things work, you're a hacker, and you find an entrance somewhere in an organization like ours. You go to these groups like, for example, this one, the Warlock Group, originating from Russia, 10 years ago started. There are about hundred of these groups in the world, mainly North Korea, Russia, China. In this case, we think that the hacker came from China, but we never really knew. This platform is literally a platform. They offer service to these hackers. So the hacker goes to the platform, pays money, probably paying it with hopefully the payment he got from the hacked organization, and uses this platform to communicate, to have these encrypted files based there, and actually also to publish if needed, because that's what they threaten. We will publish your data. So they have a very standard playbook, actually. They scan the internet for vulnerable systems, they gain access, move around, steal your data, they encrypt your service, and finally they threaten to publish your data on so-called leak sites on the dark web. I'll give you an example. What iSecurity, there was the incident response company that we worked with from the beginning, made very clear is this was not a political attack, it was not a state actor, it was not against journalism, it's just purely about money, no matter what. It's a coincidence that I took a media organization, could have been any organization. That leads, I think, to an important lesson. You're not a target because of your journalism, you're a target because of your digital exposure. That makes you vulnerable. So, how did I get in? Here's the crucial part. This was not a case of someone clicked on a wrong link. It wasn't phishing. On 26th of October, more than a week before the attack, the attackers exploited a vulnerability on one of the servers. Just a random Microsoft server. They found it through automated internet scanning. They just scan the internet. Takes an hour and they scan everything on vulnerabilities. So RTV North was not specifically chosen for that. It was just, they were found. That was actually what happened. So once inside they installed spyware, they could open entrances to passwords. They run passwords detections within seconds. It's based on algorithms. They just download dictionaries, they find out the combinations, and they use the most common combinations of words and numbers. The usual suspect when it comes to like welcome 1, 2, 3 and so on. But they scan it in seconds because that's what the internet does nowadays. It's easy for them. They found a password in a help desk in this case, came in, had more mandates to enter other systems, and that's how they nestled. So no journalist, no producer, no intern that made a stupid mistake here. This was a combination of a new vulnerability and unknown weaker spots in the infrastructure. And with a focus on unknown, we don't know. Once they had stolen data and encrypted the systems, the classic scenario started actually. So they left a ransom note and invited RTV North to a chat on the dark web. That's how they start. We decided to delay. We first needed to know what was going on literally. So we didn't respond immediately, and I think that was a good thing. The ransom demand was in Bitcoin. That's how it works. I can't mention the exact amount here, but believe me, you can organize 3 CIRCOMs on 3 tropical islands for that money in a row. And it's a lot of money, actually. The decision of RTV North was clear from the beginning. You saw it in the video, Nina telling, we don't pay. But easier said than done, because at the end of the day, it might take more money to reinstall things or repair things than you would pay as a ransom. So that's, I think Nina said something like we were never considering to pay. That is true in the core, but imagine what would have happened if we would have paid millions in order to reinstall everything that we needed. I don't know. But we said we will not use public money to pay criminals. And even if you pay, there's no real guarantee. Will they never publish your data? We don't know. They're criminals. Why wouldn't they? Did they decrypt everything or not? We didn't know by then. At the same time, we did communicate with them. And as I said, we delayed it, but not to negotiate a price, but to gain an information advantage. We needed to know what happened. So what did we want to know? What data did they actually steal? Can they really decrypt the systems? What kind of timelines and threats are they using? And from that communication, we learned that they had stolen about 86,000 files. Still doesn't say anything, but they came from a shared drive, 86,000 files. So we needed to know what were these files. And we asked them for proof, so they did. They could prove that they had files, and they sent it to us as a proof that they had them. So, how did RTV North respond? The first step was immediate isolation. Disconnect the network. Make sure that you're not connected to the internet anymore to stop further damage. Then very quickly, we brought in specialists. So iSecurity, as I call it, a Dutch cybersecurity company, together with the internal IT team, we deployed EDR, endpoint detection and responsive software. Endpoints are the most crucial points where people can enter your place. It's literally the points of entry in an organization, things that are connected to the internet, your laptops, your desktops, even mobile phones, servers, and so on. These are the vulnerable parts in the organization. So we installed this software to at least help us to protect it, but also to collect forensic evidence and to remove the backdoors and to monitor the systems 24/7. We needed to know if we were safe. Then we followed an actually structured approach. We did triage and forensics, so what exactly happened here? Where are the attackers? The phased recovery of systems. One by one, we had to recover the things in order to keep on working, of course. And not just switch everything back on, that's impossible. You need to do it step by step, takes a lot of time. server by server, clean backups, checking, as I said, checking the backwards, resetting the passwords, hardening accounts and policies. And in parallel, all the other parties got involved. So we, as the umbrella organization, were involved. The Dutch National Cybersecurity Center was involved because this is a public organization. They need to know what's happening, public data stolen or not. Ministry of Education, Culture and Science was involved. The Dutch Media Authority was involved. And of course the Dutch Data Protection Authority, because we found out there was private data were stolen. So this quickly became not just an IT issue, but it was more of an organizational and public issue. So the negotiations started, and now it becomes funny because this is, in my opinion, this is crazy. So this is what we saw: chat with Warlock. This was the first message we got, literally like this: chat with Warlock. And if you chat with these people, you enter literally the dark web. That's why we needed the security agencies in order to help us with that, because that's, well, a specific part of the internet, as you can understand. You need specialists for that. And they were also managing the negotiations. These people knew how to chat with these sort of groups. Said there are about 100 of these groups in the world. So the first message was this one: hello, we found your note. How can we resolve this situation? And the note is the note that the attackers left. Literally a simple note, like you get an email from your friend. Can we talk? So this is how we responded. We didn't do that instantly. We waited a few days in order to know what was going on. And we already found that they were not pushing. So we thought, okay, it's possible to wait a little bit. And from there, we went into these sort of things. And we found out, and that is a bit of luck, I think, in our situation. It's hard to see, I'm afraid, here, but you can see the little arrows there. We found out that they sent text to us based on the question, how can we solve this? That was dated a few days back, so it was not real time. We found out that they copied these texts from other hacks that they did, which was a stupid mistake, because by then we knew, okay, they're not the most professional ones. These guys are just trying. And if they're trying, there's not a lot of urgency. At least that's what we thought. So we started to negotiate, and one by one, step by step, we tried to find out, what did they steal? Is it real? Did they really steal it? And so on. But interesting to see that another thing happened. You can also see there, it is in this red part, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it says, as a security technology company, being hacked is a very bad thing. We are not a security company. So that actually meant, okay, it is serious, but maybe less serious than we think in terms of the attackers. And they take everything, including God and the Bible. You have to take action because it makes you look bad. And actually they're threatening with shame. That's what they do. We will shame you. We will publish you. And it looks like this. This is what they do. This is their publication website. This is where they, and this is open for everyone. You can find it. And they do that on purpose because they want this to be found. Because journalists find this as well. Journalists will see that Orange has been hacked and will write about it. It's exactly what I want. They want to be published. So, and this is another intriguing thing. You see the clocks are ticking. So that's what they do. The data leaks show. They put on the logos of the hacked organizations. By the way, we've never been published. Not on this part, not in the blame and shame side. We've never been published. So I think that was our luck. But this is how it works. They just let the clock tick, literally, and make it urgent. Okay, back to us. In the meantime, what we decided is we chose transparency over secrecy. That was a key decision in the whole process. While Warlock was threatening to put the name RTV Noord on that website that you just saw, to shame them, we said we want to be ahead of that. So we went public ourselves. We announced that we had been attacked. You saw it in the video, the guy announcing it on television. We also were open about the fact that data had been stolen and that we were working on recovery. And the moment we did that, the power balance shifted in a way. The threat, we will publish that you were hacked, lost a bit of its impact. So by choosing transparency over secrecy, actually RTV North regained control over the narrative, not only with the hackers, but also with our own staff. And the audiences, of course, and even the partners we're working on with, because their data were stolen as well, to a certain extent. So I think we're talking a lot about systems and hackers, but the real story is about people. The director of Nord was on holiday in Miami, you saw that. When the attack became visible, on the first day of her vacation, she woke up and found all these messages in her phone, and she decided to come back immediately. We were informing the ministry immediately, and within an hour we were on a call with the cybersecurity center. That moved very quickly. We set up a crisis room in the office, and for days, sometimes night, we came there together, and all decisions went through that specific room. Staff had to work with, well, manually workarounds, USB sticks, temporary systems. A neighboring broadcaster, RTV Drenthe from the other province, helped us out. Freelancers, of course, were worried about, am I getting paid? Personnel was afraid about the data that were stolen. Colleagues worried. That's why we organized Q&A sessions with the personnel, set up the hack help desk, and personally contacted all the colleagues and all the people that might have been involved with the data leak. And that had a real emotional impact, of course, as you can understand. There was uncertainty, there was frustration, fear of identity theft. It's not nice. There was also something else, and that's what Nina called creativity, solidarity, pride. And despite everything, the news kept going out, so we were still on the air. So actually, systems went down, but the resilience of the people did not, and that was a big thing. Okay, so to wrap it up, let me be honest, there are several things that we wish we had been stronger and even stronger before the attack. So looking back together with iSecurity, we found out that a number of big lessons are important here. First of all, 24/7 monitoring is crucial. So this endpoint detection software is crucial. You need to know what's happening around. So you're vulnerable, you're entering the internet all day. Second, stronger IT staffing and governance. If your IT team is too small, it becomes almost impossible to keep patching, to repair things, to monitor things, the incident, and even respond to the right level. Third, stricter it's an open door probably, but stricter password and account hygiene, no passwords in group policy. Make sure password is not a password, but a sentence, for example. No shared admin accounts, enforce strong passwords and password managers, and that's what we, of course, did along the way already. Fourth, more mature patch and vulnerability management, especially for the internet-facing services. Attackers are faster than any patch, I can tell you. Another thing that helped us was the fact that we had backups, actually, and these backups were immutable, so we could enter them again. Okay, 5 concrete steps. So what can you do with this as a regional broadcaster? 5 steps that you could take on, could start with on Monday, for example. Map your digital exposure. Where are you? What are you doing? Which systems are internet-facing? Who owns them? And actually, we found out that many organizations don't even know about this. So we did a test along all the broadcasters in our country, where they are. Ensure EDR, I mentioned that before. Test your backups, make sure that they work. It helped us a lot, actually, that we had them. Prepare an incident response playbook, so if things happen like this, be prepared. Not just from a technical perspective, but certainly also decide whether you want to pay or not, even when you don't know what's happening, but at least have an idea about how to handle, because you don't want to decide it at 3 o'clock in the morning when you find out, and it's always in these moments. Train your people, crucial. What do we do when everything stops suddenly, but also how to keep radio, television, and online in order in an emergency mode like ours. Okay, let me close with a few thoughts. Cyber attacks will not stop. They will become more frequent and more professional. What we can do is reduce the impact. So speed up your recovery when it happens. For RTV North, being transparent helped a lot. Helped us to to regain control of the story. It helped with trust internally as well, with staff, and externally with the public and with authorities. And actually we said we can learn from this. So I would say my ask to you is simple. Put cybersecurity on your management agenda, not just on IT's agenda. Make it an organization thing. Invest in resilience, in detection, response, recovery, not only in prevention. Share your incidents and your lessons learned also with the community, I would say, and I'm happy to play a role there if needed. Because I think the question is not, will someone in this room be attacked, but how well prepared will you be when it happens? That's it for now. Thank you for your attention. If you want to reach out, you can scan my LinkedIn or send me an email or call me if you have my number. Happy to help out on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan, and I'm sure all of us who work in the radios know the feeling when you just have to put on some emergency music, but that was something else.
Yeah, you take your right hand, first record, put it on, whatever comes in.
Then everything is okay.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the other QR code for you guys and gals. Please use it. Questions for Jan. And how many of you have changed your passwords lately? How many of you haven't? Be honest, yeah. And how many of you have a password longer than 16 characters? That's the limit. We learned on International Password Day a few weeks ago. 16 or more characters, unbreakable basically. It starts from each and every one of us.
And now the first question's there. Actually,
could you recover all your systems and files? No, we couldn't. We found out that a few things were not repairable anymore, so we needed to install them again. But given the fact that we gained time in the negotiations, we had time to resolve some things. But at the end, we still missed a few things. We also found out that the data they had stolen were not the most crucial thing. Of course, there were privacy things involved, personal data, passport numbers, passports, PDFs, and so on. So no, we couldn't restore everything, but the most crucial things we could reinstall. How did you in the end resolve the problem? Well, at the time was on our side, and as I said, we found out that these hackers were not the most professional ones. So given that we were already reaching out ourselves and we made known that what happened to us was not a fact of shame anymore, but we just decided to be open about it. I think that helped. What also helped is that they also saw that we were not afraid to not pay, because we, like they did, probably found out that the data were, okay, vulnerable, but not as crucial as it could have been. So time was on our side, and it actually, in the meantime, when we were reinstalling things, it helped us to move to the end, actually. Was the paying option ever an option? Yeah, it was, actually, of course. And again, that had to do with money. At the end of the day, I said it in the beginning of the presentation, I think, this is a money game. It's about money for them, but actually also for the one who's been attacked. Because it costs a lot of money to recover things. This cybersecurity agency is not for free. They don't work for goodwill. They cost money. They're specialists, but they cost money. So you need to be aware of where it might lead to. And again, I think we were happy that we had some specialists internally as well, not in our own company, but also in neighboring companies that helped us out. Very dedicated people within the team, 24/7, which helped as well. And I think it also helped that we were a media agency, a media company that reached out themselves, just telling what happened. And in that fact, for that matter, that whole name and shame thing was not a big thing. But paying has been an option, of course. We thought about it. And basically, from an ethical perspective, we're dealing with public money. So the basic answer was from the beginning, no, we won't. But what if the cost of recovering everything and being sure that we could, for example, play that emergency role, which is illegal, it's by law, we have to do that, would have cost more than €1 million, for example. I don't know what we would have done. Basic idea is we don't pay. How long were core broadcast systems down for? How long were you playing Dolly Parton and the B-Records? 4 months in a row. No. Gerda, maybe Gerda is here, the chief editor of RTV Noord at that time. How long did we play Dolly Parton?
I think for about, for 3 weeks we were playing
Manually, yeah.
It took some time to get all these systems back up.
Yeah.
And the last systems were actually the online publishing systems that really took like, I think 3 months.
Yeah.
And those of you who didn't hear, 3 weeks was the answer, basically. Not all Dolly Parton, though.
3 weeks, and also, as you said, the online publishing thing, there was the bottleneck here. Did you feel pressure from press, private media, and or your own trade unions? No, not a moment. And funnily enough, of course, private media reported about it, because they always do. They like it when public service media is in danger, I think. But no, the major feeling was this can happen to anyone. So why would you feel pressure? Trade unions, of course, they were involved because it's about private data that were stolen. But again, being open helps a lot. Being transparent, it helps us.
The last one.
Could you be hacked again?
Oh.
Yes, is the real answer. But the chance of it is way less than it was before. You will never be 100% protected because, as I said, these guys are getting more and more professional. We are getting more and more digitally exposed. That won't end because we're all in our digital transformation. That's the theme of today as well, which means that you're vulnerable. But you can do a lot of things to protect as much as possible.
Thank you for being open on this case. It could happen to anyone. That's the main point, I guess.
Exactly.
Mr. Jan Müller, thank you.
Thank you. The time is flying.